Bounties, bounties, bounties are really cool, and I want to talk about them. I don't think I've ever seen a better sign of progression than bounties in all of anime, really. And I think that comes down to 6 simple points. 1. Straightforwardness. Humans are very simple creatures. When we see big number go up, it's a very basic sign of good or bad depending on the context. Seeing a criminal's bounty increase is a simple sign to show how dangerous they are. Since our main characters are criminals, bounties are a straightforward way to show their progress. The only other system in shonen I think to be similar is power levels. Dragon Ball also had a number-based system of progression, but this leads me into point number 2, tangibility. See, power levels are cool, but they don't feel real. If I tell you Raditz has a power level of 1500, that doesn't mean anything, whereas if I told you Bellamy has a bounty of 60 million berries on his head, it means a lot more even when the currency itself is fake. Now, applying full context will show you what these numbers represent and that they are quite low values for their respective universes, but you see what I'm saying. Due to bounties being tied to currency, they have an extra bit of relatability / understanding that power levels can't have. There are other problems with power levels, but for now, let's go to point 3. Narrative aspect. Even when comparing One Piece to other series which don't have concrete numbers for progression, bounties still reign supreme. Let's go to Naruto for instance. Naruto has ninja ranks ranging from Genin all the way up to S-class. Kinda. However, the problem with these ranks is not only does Kishimoto put small amounts of emphasis on them, with our 2 main characters not even progressing through, but they also become completely irrelevant during Shippuden. In part 2, every antagonist is Kage level or higher. Then during the Pain arc, we start seeing beyond S-class ninja, and that's only 66% of the way through the series. We're not even talking about all the war arc stuff. Bleach is even worse, as it is in every aspect of storytelling, because although Kubo does put emphasis on Ichigo becoming 3rd seat or captain level, those titles do not matter after the Soul Society arc, whether it be because of insane training montages, retcons, or just because the holders of the titles themselves vary widely in strength. I think the best new gen manga that does progression signs is JJK, but even then, it's not as good as One Piece. Grades are cool, but they're stated multiple times to be irrelevant. To be fair, that's kind of the point. However, as with every other problem in JJK, the story ended too fast, so our main characters jumped straight to the highest grades in the last arc. Bounties never have these issues, at least with the main cast. They are emphasized and used to measure our protagonist's progression many times, yet there's never a point where they become irrelevant because we know even the strongest characters have bounties that aren't too absurd. Now, this isn't to say those other series are ass because they don't have good signs of progression. That's just not what JJK, Bleach, and especially Naruto are about. Some of you may also be noting that those systems have more to do with strength than bounties do, which leads me into point number 4, complexity. Dragon Ball could never. For as similar as they look, power levels and bounties couldn't be any more different. Levels are bare bones descriptions of strength. The person with the higher number is the more powerful one. Bounties not only measure strength, but also threat level, infamy, agency, potential, basically everything bad about a criminal. This makes them feel far more grand than power levels because it's not just, oh, Luffy became stronger, give him a new number. It's more like Straw Hat Luffy is a rising danger in multiple aspects, and we must make that known to the rest of the world. It also highlights specific character strengths. For instance, Robin has a higher bounty than Ace, not because she's stronger, but because her knowledge is a greater threat. This is also why using bounties to power scale is insanely idiotic. Speaking of knowledge though, point 5. Dramatic irony. You know that giddy feeling you get when Bellamy underestimates Luffy and Zoro even though their bounties are higher than him? Yeah, that's dramatic irony. That's called feeling more connected to the story. That's tension and anticipation, and it's mostly because of bounties. Oda uses irony / subversion through bounties many times in multiple different ways. Of course, there's the classic Bellamy example, but there's also those neat moments in pre-time skip where the antagonists think they've outsmarted the Straw Hats just for a member without a bounty to surprise them. Then there's times like Skypiea, where the world government wasn't there to record Luffy's progress, so they missed a large portion of Luffy's adventure. This not only makes our main characters look smarter for outwitting the villains in quotations, but it also makes the world feel larger. Though if we're talking about large worlds, we can go on to point 6. Anticipation. I've seen people argue vehemently over certain people's bounties. Not their strength or whether the character themselves is good, no, just their number. Bounty speculation is a large part of the One Piece community for very good reason. These numbers are just an extremely easy way to build hype for a character. Plus, One Piece is told from basically third-person omniscient, so Oda gets to choose whether or not to reveal certain information, hyping up the characters even more. It also makes sense for a first-person perspective. Take Dragon for instance. Luffy's journey has absolutely nothing to do with him, so it makes sense as to why we haven't seen his bounty yet. Going back to the fandom part of it, there are some chapters where bounty reveals are the main focus, yet people still get insanely hyped for them. It's crazy that Oda can generate so much excitement through just a number. It's even more wild when you look back at all 6 of these points and realize how much bounties enhance the story of One Piece, despite them being such a minor feature. Now, all of that is good, but there is one big issue with bounties, or how they work. See, most people are blinded by the 6 parts I mentioned to realize this, which is the point. However, there are some people who believe bounties aren't that important in the One Piece world itself. Think about it, who is collecting these rewards? Not our main characters, because they don't care about money. Well, the good ones at least. Just kidding, I don't hate any of the Straw Hats and you shouldn't either. Now it is true we rarely see bounties acted upon, but I think the more accurate complaint is about the bounty hunter class itself. For all the reward money floating around, we have barely seen any bounty hunters in the series. It's literally just the Frankie family, Chapter 1 Zoro, and Baroque works, I guess. But instead of that, let's look at this from the world government's perspective. There are millions of criminals in this world, so instead of wasting manpower attempting to capture them, why not pit them against each other? This is the exact strategy Doflamingo used in Dressrosa, as well as what Cross Guild is doing to the Marines currently. It's extremely easy to have your enemies tear each other apart at such a small expense. Bounties are also a convenient way to keep track of criminals, as those who are captured have to be turned into the government. The only thing I'll say about all of this is that the further up the ladder they go, the more absurd bounties become. Again, not from a narrative perspective, but like in world, who is collecting the Yonko commander bounties? Let alone the emperors themselves. Like, the only person who could possibly do such is Mihawk, but it doesn't matter how powerful you think Mihawk is, he can't solo a whole Yonko crew. Well, never mind. That's all I got for today's video, so tell me in the comments which bounties do you think characters have and why.